Okay, now we are live. Welcome everyone to Caregivers Embracing Elder Care. I am your host, Bahamia Ulysses, Geriatric Care Manager, alongside my co-host, Robin Downs of Yoga Flavor, and her lovely father, Sergeant Major William Downs. Welcome. How are
Thank
you guys
you.
doing today?
We're
How
doing great. We're doing great. How you doing, Bahamia?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. We are here yet again, really looking at focusing on our elder care. Well, we were actually creating a care plan, and the elder care plan was broken up into almost 8 series. This is our last part of the series. So this one particular topic that we wanted to bring in was or is focused around having a caregiver support system. And Robin will talk to you more about her caregiver support system. But before we get into all of that, we want to first start our show off like we have been with a meditation and possibly even an affirmation. Robin, I'll let you take it away.
Sure. First, I wanted to do a breathing exercise. So in yoga, the breathing exercises are called pranayama. And this particular pranayama is to help to balance the energies in the different sides of your body, right and left energy. We're coming upon the autumn equinox. The equinox is also about the balancing of light and darkness.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving into the season of darkness. And as we move into that season of darkness, just taking the time to align in this moment and continue to be in sync as we move into the season, I think is really important. So I wanted to share this breathing exercise.
Ooh, I'm excited. Yes.
Yes. So it's alternate nostril breathing. So we've done this before, Dad, with the video. Pointer finger, middle finger to your forehead. You take the thumb and the thumb closes off your right nostril. And then you inhale through the left nostril. And then exhale through the left nostril. Then you take the ring and pinky finger of that right hand and you lift up the thumb so you can inhale through the right nostril. Full belly breath, and then exhale through the right nostril. Going again, covering up the right nostril, giving space to the left nostril. Inhale through the left nostril. Exhale through the left nostril. Covering up the left nostril. Inhale through the right nostril. Exhale through the right nostril. Covering up the right nostril. Inhale through the left nostril. Exhale through the left nostril. Covering up the left nostril. One last round. Inhale through the right nostril. Exhale through the right nostril. And then the last part. Inhale through the left nostril, covering up the right nostril. Exhale through the left nostril. And the affirmation for today is I am balanced.
I am
balanced. So as we come into the autumn equinox, having a sense that I am balanced.
I love that. Thank you so much, Robin. Could you tell us, or myself, the viewers even, what it is about that right-left nostril breathing? Because I do want to get on with it, but I know for sure that I've researched in the past, because I've loved yoga for my whole life, right? But I've never really gone like a deep dive into it. But I do remember maybe Deepak Chopra or another yoga guru talking about not only the breathing, but how we don't breathe through both nostrils usually at the same time, and how kind of alternating that affects your stress responses and things of that nature. And I'm not going to claim to know much more about it than this, but I was hoping you could share with the audience just a little bit about what that kind of does for you.
Well, I think you mentioned it, and probably right now you're feeling even a little bit more balanced. So just taking the time to slow down and taking the time to get the maximum amount of oxygen in the right hemisphere of your body and the maximum amount of oxygen in the left hemisphere of your body. Balance, yin and yang, masculine and feminine,
Right.
positive and negative, light and dark. So just being able to balance all of that out is the sense that that pranayama exercise has.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. All right. So we are going to get into our topic for the day, and it's about caregiver support, or even caregiver support groups, building your kind of caregiver network of support. Because I think as we wrap up the care plan, the underbelly of having a care plan for yourself as well as for your loved one is really establishing who's there for you. And I can't say enough how many times I've had caregiver clients who come to me very distraught and distressed over the fact that no one's there to help. And I wanted to ask you, Robin, before I kind of give my tips and resources and tools, what your experience has been like personally, and maybe even what you've heard other caregivers, children who are caregivers of aging parents go through as they start on their caregiver season and journey.
Sure. And it's interesting that you picked this topic because my sister and I had a conversation this morning about when my father was living with his lady friend, and my sister was in Virginia and I was in California, and it was his lady friend's son that would check in on them, and my sister and I would talk to him about the status of my father. And I think that he was in denial, maybe is the best way to say it. He was in denial about both of their needs. He was in denial about how much help maybe they were using. And, I know, Dad, you felt like he just didn't want you to marry his mother. So in terms of early on support, it was very precarious. When I was talking to my sister this morning, I felt really sad because it was confusing. My father was calling me up early in the morning because he knew he needed help, but I felt like he couldn't even really articulate it. He just wasn't happy with the help that he was getting from, his lady friend's son. And that was really not like Dad to call me like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, I just wanted to alert you. I'll never forget that. I just wanted to alert you that he's moving my things around and I don't feel comfortable here. Whatever was going on behind me, my sister still even wants to investigate. All I know is that in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of support. And I really felt like I had to infiltrate.
Wow.
Infiltrate. Yeah, I really had to infiltrate, because even when I did catch up with my father, I think he was having a hard time articulating. He wanted to be with his lady friend. His son really wasn't of help. He's very prideful. And so it was a very awkward time in the beginning to know what level of support to give him. The first thing I think I did when he came out of the hospital the first time and went back to the Bronx is to make sure that he had an aide that came in, but the dynamics with the aide, and I wasn't really there. I would get calls from the agency and the aide that this wasn't working.
Right. Long story short, yeah.
He wasn't accepting the situation and it just wasn't working. So early on, the support situation was challenging. And then fast forward to where he left, where he was living with his lady friend in the Bronx and moved out here to Long Island. There was a neighbor who had someone who was a certified nursing assistant that came over, very helpful, very attractive young lady. And then to make a long story short with that, I realized I really had to supervise the caregiver. I couldn't really leave them alone for too long. Long story short, just to be protective of my father. So the support in the beginning was a lot to process.
Sure, sure. Say it, Robin, say
And that's
it.
where I had to figure out how to be more involved. And the real of having to sometimes supervise the home health aides.
Yep.
That was something that, like, oh, great, they're here, whatever. Or, I just thought, oh, I could just turn it over to them. And even to this day, I still feel like I need to, they know the basics of what to do. And with this pandemic, sometimes I need help and just, be a companion to my dad. Get off your phone, let's turn on, a video if I'm not available right now and do some chair yoga. Or the senior center sent over some links to, you can do a Zoom with some of them and come on and, make it happen.
Do it. Let's, yeah, I understand.
So sometimes the support that you hire, you need to supervise. And that was something that I didn't think I would need to do. And that's energy in and of itself. But you do need to supervise. You do really to let them know that, I got an eye on you. I'm, seeing the level of care that you're giving my father. And my father, every day, he says to me, are they doing what they're supposed to do?
Oh,
every day.
Go for it, yes. I'm so glad, Robin, that you brought up some really, really good points. I couldn't have set this up any better. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But seriously, two things that I want to point out that you mentioned that I really want to focus in on. One was the level of pride. I think that's a big thing that I come across with a lot of my caregiver clients because they're usually dedicated daughters. I had a conversation with someone earlier this week and she used that term and I thought, oh, that is very, very true. Most of the clients, caregiver clients that I work with are dedicated daughters who want to care for their parents in a way that honors and respects and gives them the value that they deserve. And that said, the issue of pride always kind of comes into play because it just is one of those phenomenons where you're stepping in as almost a authority, and it's never been that way. The role has never been that way between you and your parents. So having to kind of become humble on both sides, not just yours, but your parents, right? Trying to find a comfortable medium because you both have pride. A lot of the times, our parents, when it comes, I think, really, really into the more serious aspect of where that shows up is around personal hygiene. So I have a lot of caregiver clients who feel like they can't do the showers or they can't do the changing of underpads or anything like that, or certain topics or issues around finances, discussions around that. It really tends to be a very tough point to really even just begin to talk about.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was lots of tears.
Yes.
Lots of negotiating, lots of reminding. Bad Dad smiling.
Yeah.
We're in a good place. We're in a really good place now. And to get to this place, it did take a lot of negotiation. And my father does compliment me now in terms of how well he's being taken care of. And I really appreciate that, Dad, all the time. He knows. He'll ask me to do something. He's like, I know, you're doing a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like, but this is why us talking about this and having gone through the journey is so important. That you are in a good space. You are at the other side of this.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, to let people know that you can get to the other side. And like I said, even my sister's call that reminded me how awful things were. And when we see Dad how he is now, it's a stark reflection of how awful it was.
Right. Right.
So,
Good words. No, they're not.
That cheerleader to let everybody know that there is light and there is joy to be found.
Absolutely. Great choice of words. I know people don't like the word awful, but I think that was, it's key.
And I wasn't using that word.
No.
When she spoke to me this morning and I reflected, I allowed myself to use that word because things are so fabulous now.
Right. And the stark comparison. And I say that is why I even started the Nurse in the Know, or even coming on, because what I experienced post caregiving with my caregiver clients, and mind you, I'm not a therapist or anything like this, right? Just a nurse, geriatric care manager that helps people with their aging parents. But when my clients would come back to me, not necessarily having gone through all of my steps, but just kind of getting to me when things were really tough, they say that if it wasn't for the guidance of myself, this is tooting my own horn a little bit, but that they would have experienced this caregiver season as really traumatic, that it had already started that way, that things were already going down that road of really not knowing, not the road to no return, but really not knowing what they were really going to do about a very serious issue for their parents. So the next thing that you talked about was the levels of caregiving support and support for yourself that you didn't realize that you needed. And denial is part of it, but then just plain not knowing how to care for your aging parents in a space where all of a sudden they're not able to be independent as they were, and how quickly it happens. So I think one of my tips, and you'll agree or not or disagree, would be to always do, like what I say is constant check-ins. I think that people kind of tend to have a little bit, the oversight happens when you don't have a regular routine of checking in on your parents. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be, I would say at least once a week. But if you're noticing small things, that's when things start to slip through the cracks, right? The small things become bigger things when time has passed and it goes unchecked. So whether it's just having a small conversation with your mother or father, or having a conversation with a friend of your mother or father's, because that kind of
neighbors also.
The neighbors, yes, the neighbors.
I have a good support system with my neighbor.
People who see them regularly, if you're not able to do so yourself, just to have that extra set of eyes. Because I think our parents, because of their pride, they want to water down what's going on, right? They don't necessarily want to tell you the truth. They'll,
or sometimes they themselves might not even realize how bad it is.
Mm-hmm. This is very true.
I mean, like, oh, I'm just getting old, but
right.
They not even realize. That's when I was talking about it, I said, I don't think my father had the words to articulate what he was going through.
Mm-hmm. And then something you mentioned before we got on today, you said something around, you didn't realize kind of where you were at, like what space you were in until you had to step in, right? And I think that part alone, where you are at the space of, you were living long distance in the beginning.
Oh yeah, California.
Mm-hmm.
California.
And go ahead.
Yeah, well, California, came back, and yeah, Dad was very I got this, what are you doing with your life? Kind of thing. He still asks that every once in a while.
Same here.
But relying on other people, you can have a support system, but I think that you really got to supervise whoever you put in place to be there, and really have a monitoring system around that. I think that's super duper.
Checks and balances, for sure.
Yeah.
Hit me up for my second tip. The next one is to, if you don't create a care plan, although I strongly advise that you do, if you don't create a care plan, create something. And by something, I mean a checklist. So this is, I guess, tip number 2, a checklist or some kind of regimen. Because one thing you mentioned was having the caregiver that you do hire be able to follow some kind of a routine or something that helps to engage Sergeant Major in a way that that isn't just watching TV or looking at the phone.
Yeah.
That's
He enjoys an agenda I put together all the time.
right.
Before I forget, I had a friend who reached out to me, and I guess she thinks I'm the caregiver expert of everything, but it was sort of like, Robin, I need a caregiver for my 90-year-old friend who needs someone to help her with meals and medication. Any suggestions?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not an agency, but I will ask Bahamia.
Yes, absolutely. So I actually have been thinking about this for a while. I think I will put together like a checklist for caregiving, for selecting a caregiver. But I would tell her to, if she does have Instagram or Facebook, go to either one of our profiles because, or my profile, I should say, because I do have kind of like the top things or checklists of caregiver questions to ask, but primarily interviewing your caregivers and really searching for a good vibe. And when I say a good vibe, you know what I mean, Robin.
We've had caregivers that, want to come do everything really fast and then sit on the phone and look at you like, what? I did everything on the list. What?
Sergeant Major, I see you smiling over there.
Oh, my father, the funny thing too is like, he'll be like, oh, I don't know how to use my camera. And then there's been a couple of occasions where he'll be like, look, I took pictures of them. They were on their phone and he used the camera. Excuse me, have a delivery. I'll be right back.
Okay, sure. Sergeant Major, have you had some good times with your caregivers?
Oh, yes.
Yes. And do you enjoy having someone come in just to, kind of be a companion?
I don't understand.
Well, do your caregivers have activities for you? Do you kind of?
Caregivers are here.
Exactly. Great.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've been talking to a lot of my caregiver clients about is when they do have caregivers come in to help them, I've asked them to really sit down and think about putting together a plan that would be gratifying towards your parents. I was just telling Sergeant Major, when I talk to my caregiver clients about having caregivers, we have to put together a plan that even if it's not a huge care plan, but something that's gratifying towards your parents, something that will complement what their lives have been like up until this point. I think that's a huge factor of care.
Not crossword puzzles or coloring books for Sergeant Major.
Not at all.
Thank goodness he does the yoga, and thank goodness he likes to move. He is an active outdoorsman, and upon reflection, he always has been. It's really figuring out ways to keep him moving and active and dancing and singing and all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. The last tip I'm going to end off with is basically finding that support system, because I think it has to happen in a way that is convenient for you. So everybody has their own way. I don't know, maybe you'll share with us what your kind of philosophy is around your caregiver support system or your personal support system, because I've had people who tell me that having an online group is amazing. And some people who say that it's nothing. It's just a venting session that they get nothing from, right? And then I've had people tell me that their friends have been key, like integral into them being able to get through this season. And then I've also had people say people who they thought would be there for them, like their friends and family, have vanished, poof, into thin air. So I guess my question to you is, what has worked for you best? And then I think we can wrap up with, what it is that we kind of suggest, or what you might want to caution people about when you look at your caregiver support system.
Well, I'm just smiling because that's why I'm here with you, because
Yeah.
you are my support system, Bahamia. And coming here every Sunday has been wonderful. That's why I want to be able to nurture this group and create programs where we can hold people's hands, because sometimes people who are not in this situation can't really relate. It's interesting. One of my best girlfriends, I've been wanting her to be my healthcare proxy and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, come over, let's go through the paperwork, or I'll email it to you or whatever. And for whatever reason, that accountability with her isn't there. And she keeps feeling like, oh, we have time, we have time. But I know that's always the trap for everybody.
Yes.
And that's why I really want to have a group of and help those people who are in my situation, or the early stages of the situation, to have accountability, to have a support group where you can vent, okay, fine, but we could take steps for solution and have those solutions accomplished by a certain date. I can't tell you, and I told you, I think from the beginning of the thing, how long I've been trying to get my own paperwork together. I just had the neighbor's daughter, I don't know if he's listening, the neighbor's daughter, but they had a good conversation, come to me and like, oh, I don't know how to approach my dad. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's right everywhere. And especially in the age of COVID, where with the fall coming, we don't know what's going to get knocked down. I told my father, I said, Dad, if you really want to travel, I got to make sure my affairs are in order. So that accountability, I think, is really important. And right now, that's my biggest yearning. Accountability partners, accountability community. I have my cousins who have been there and traveled with me, but it was, once again, to a certain extent. So, and I'm sure you understand all the details that are involved, Bahamia, but not everybody understands. So many I's need to be dotted and T's need to be crossed, for real, for real. And that's where things get crazy, when those plans and that paperwork is not in order. So get the plan together, and all, but that the paperwork is just super duper important. And I see where so many people put it off. I got to check with my neighbor once again. I don't know if they're listening to see. I know they had the conversation, but what steps now are they taking to implement, to put things in order? People have oh yes, you'll be the healthcare proxy someday.
Yeah, sure. It's about action. Yeah, it's actually about action. And so
I want us to help people take action, not just vent, but take action.
Absolutely. That is great. Thank you so much, Robin. I think not only do we have a lot of caregivers who are kind of emotionally going through it, right? It's such an emotional process that having to deal with the nuts and bolts gets pushed to the side, because you're already so burdened, you're so stressed out emotionally. Right. And so we're not going to talk about the physical aspect. We're not going to talk about the financials. We're just, you as your own person have to kind of process it. So these small little tips and strategies are really just to kind of help you put one foot in front of the other. It's not a poof, we've got it all together, a solution, because there is none. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the bearer.
And for me, I was just looking back through the pictures and our journey, and it's taken this long to, feel this level. But as you hear in the conversation I'm having right now, okay, Dad's all set up. Now I got to make sure my paperwork is set up. And I understand how important that is. And like, wow, this is taking longer than I thought. But, oh, that's what happened to my father also. So it's like, whoa, what's up with this cycle? So if we can help people break that cycle and have a smooth path to resolving the issues of the care plan and the paperwork, is what I'd really love for us to be able to provide.
Myself included, I would love that. And I think we're doing that. I think every day I've gotten some really good feedback, even on Instagram and just, different social media networks and platforms, where people are asking questions. And, I think some of the answers are out there, but there's also the level of frustration that you have to go through to find these answers. So I think also my initiative is to make sure that people can come to one space and be able to get most of those I call them burning questions, most of those burning questions answered, because these are the questions that you can't sleep unless you get the answer to. Right? We'll probably have a whole nother episode about sleepless nights, but we'll do that another day. I think we're winding down to time. Is there anything that I either forgot or didn't talk about aside from our kind of wrap up of our series on creating our perfect care plan that you wanted to talk to us about, Robin?
Dad, do you feel supported?
Supported?
Supported by me in terms of, your day-to-day activities and everything you're doing? Do you feel supported?
I feel that you're doing a nice job.
I'm glad you feel that way, Dad. Just checking.
Awesome. And for all of our viewers, we've been teasing our masterclass for a while, and it is coming. It's coming at the end of this month, and we wanted to make sure that you guys keep your eyes and ears open. We will be dropping some hints about some of the things that we will be discussing. But Robin, do you want to tell them a little bit about the theme? Because I think you give it so much more grace. And
well, thank you. I'm really excited about us launching this during the change of season. Mm-hmm. It's a new season. They're calling it a new normal, with new issues that, once again, I want to really be able to help provide some solutions and support for. Mm-hmm. This pandemic is not going away in the fall as much as we would like it to. We see that they're still saying it's going to be time. So there's a lot of support. There's a lot of tools and technology that Bahami and I have been talking about that we'd like to provide. So preparing for a new season, and it's time to align with a new design.
There we go. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and tuning in every Sunday at 2 p.m. We are live in our Facebook group, Caregivers Embracing Elder Care, and we're also live on Twitter as well as YouTube. So if you all want to share any of this information, please go ahead and do so. Otherwise, we will see you same time, same place next week. And until then, continue to care for your aging loved ones. I guess that's the end of the show.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Sergeant Major. We will see you next week.
Looking forward to it.
Always.